Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we extract the most important nuggets of knowledge to help you stay well informed.
Okay, so have you ever interacted with a system, maybe like an online tool giving you recommendations or some app, and it just spits out an answer?
Right.
You get the result, yeah, but there's this kind of nagging question. How did it actually figure that out? There's no explanation, no breakdown, just the output. Now imagine that feeling, but sort of amplified by the incredible power and how everywhere artificial intelligence is becoming. We're talking systems making really weighty decisions, stuff that impacts everything from your finances to, well, maybe even your health.
These AIs, they speak, sure, but it often feels like riddles. You get answers, but no reasons, verdicts, but no clear voice explaining them. It's like there's this giant humming black box right at the core, and we're basically left guessing why it did what it did. So here's our mission for today's deep dive. We want to peel back the layers on this AI mystery. Why do so many AI systems work like these black boxes? What challenges does that, opacity pose for us, not just as users, but like as a society relying on these tools?
Yeah.
And crucially, how does this idea, this concept called explainable AI or XAI, how does that promise to maybe unlock the trust we really need? Our guide for this is our source material, aptly titled Explaining the Black Box, AI's Path to Trust. Okay, let's unpack this.
What's fascinating here is how much this black box thing resonates, really. It's more than just curiosity for you, the listener, or even a technical puzzle for engineers. When we talk about answers without reasons, it taps right into a fundamental human need. We want to understand why.
Right.
Think about an AI influencing your credit score, maybe suggesting a medical diagnosis, or even filtering job applications. If you can't grasp why it made that decision, how can you check if it's sound? How do you appeal?
Yeah, how do you even push back?
Exactly, or even learn from it, or improve the system itself. This lack of transparency, it doesn't just block understanding, it kind of erodes the whole foundation of relying on it.
And it's that core idea of the black box, this like sealed off, opaque system that our source really paints a vivid picture of. It's not just that it's complex. From the outside, the decision making feels almost unknowable. The source puts it nicely, saying, the machine speaks, but often in riddles, answers without reasons, verdicts without voice. It sounds poetic, but it's actually pretty unsettling, right? Imagine a doctor giving a diagnosis without explaining the symptoms or tests.
You wouldn't accept that.
No. Or a judge delivering a verdict with zero rationale. We wouldn't stand for that from a human professional. So the question becomes, why would we settle for it from an AI that's making decisions with, similar, sometimes even greater weight?
Exactly. And this opacity, it creates a whole cascade of problems. Beyond just not knowing why, there are real functional issues. Take consistency and fairness, for instance.
Okay.
If an AI system learns some unwanted patterns from its training data, maybe biases, it might just keep repeating or even amplifying those biases in its decisions.
Oh.
But if it's a black box, how do you even spot that? How do you pinpoint where a decision might be going off track from what was intended or from basic logic? Without an explanation, it's incredibly difficult to audit, to debug, or to fix these hidden issues.
So bad patterns could just keep going undetected.
Yeah, precisely. Impacting people, communities, with no clear way to fix it.
That lack of transparency really does ripple out, doesn't it? Beyond just spotting unfairness, I'm thinking about collaboration. Like, how much do we miss out on? If we don't know the why behind an AI's prediction, how can a human expert, say, a doctor or a financial analyst, really integrate that into their work?
That's a great point.
They can't learn from its maybe unique insights. They can't check its reasoning against their own expertise, and they definitely can't build on it. The AI just stays this isolated thing, handing down pronouncements instead of being a real partner.
Right. It makes it really hard for humans to critically engage, even if the AI is right. We just don't know why it's right. It's kind of like your smart home system suddenly deciding to turn on the sprinklers at 3 a.m. You really want to know why.
Yeah. Was it scheduled? Was there a weather alert?
Yeah.
Or is it just doing its own thing?
That's a perfect analogy, actually, and it really highlights the bigger picture. In really high-stakes situations, think autonomous vehicles, managing critical infrastructure, even advanced scientific research, understanding the AI's reasoning isn't just, nice to have, it's absolutely essential for safety, for reliability.
Sure.
If a self-driving car makes a weird move, or an AI managing the power grid does something unusual, we need to know the causation. Without that, how do we investigate accidents? How do we prevent future failures? How do we even build solid regulations around this stuff?
Right.
That guessing why it chose the path it did, it goes from being an inconvenience to a totally unacceptable risk when lives or critical services are on the line.
Okay, so if that's the core problem, this kind of sealed black box where trust just can't seem to grow, then what's the way forward? Our source uses this really powerful image saying explainable AI is the lantern in that dark, not just what it decided, but why, so trust can grow where mystery once lived. Lantern, I like that. It doesn't like magically make the complexity disappear,
Yeah.
but it shines a light on the important path, right? It makes the hidden stuff visible.
It's an excellent analogy, yeah, because it perfectly captures that crucial shift. Explainable AI, XAI, it doesn't necessarily make the underlying AI model simpler. Not always.
Okay.
Instead, it gives us a whole toolkit, different methods, different techniques that let us understand, interpret, and talk about the AI's decision-making process in ways that, well, make sense to humans. It's about providing a window into that black box rather than needing us to take the whole thing apart.
And what does that window actually show us, like practically?
Well, it can take a few different forms. Sometimes it's something like a feature importance score. It basically highlights which bits of input data were most influential for a decision.
Okay, like what mattered most.
Exactly. Imagine a little bar chart showing, say, credit history was 40% of the impact, debt to income ratio was 30%, employment stability 20% for a loan decision. Other times, it might be more like a decision path visualization, almost like a flow chart showing the steps the AI took. Or even what's called a counterfactual explanation, which tells you something like, hey, if your debt to income ratio had been 5% lower, then the loan would have been approved. These different kinds of explanations are what really empower us to check and understand. The goal is always to get past just the what it decided and get to a clear why.
So instead of just getting a flat yes or no from AI about, say, that loan application, XAI would ideally tell you yes, because your credit history looks good, your debt to income is low, and you've got stable employment. Or maybe no, because even though your income's high, these recent late payments signal a higher risk based on these specific factors in your payment history.
Precisely.
That completely changes the dynamic, doesn't it? It goes from being some kind of mysterious order to an understandable, checkable assessment, even if you don't necessarily like the result.
Absolutely. That why is the key ingredient for building trust. When you understand the reasoning, you suddenly gain these powerful new abilities. First, you can verify. Does the AI's explanation actually make sense with what you know about the subject, or just common sense?
Right, like a reality check.
Exactly. If an AI suggests a medical treatment, but the explanation sounds totally off to a doctor, that's a huge red flag. Could be an error, could be a misunderstanding by the AI. Second, you can validate. Does the explanation show the AI is using the right information? Relevant stuff, not just some weird correlation it found or data that brings in unwanted bias.
Okay, checking his homework.
Kind of. Third, you can correct. If the AI messes up, the explanation helps you find where the error came from. That makes it way easier to debug, maybe retrain the model, or adjust the inputs. It turns this opaque failure into a problem you can actually solve. And fourth, you can learn. Human experts might actually get new insights from seeing the AI's reasoning. Maybe it spotted patterns or connections they hadn't thought of before. It can enhance human knowledge, too. All of these things are pretty much impossible if you're just dealing with a pure black box. So the lantern of XAI lets us interact with AI not as some, mysterious oracle, but as a transparent, accountable, and improvable tool. And that's fundamental if we want to move from just accepting AI outputs to actually having confidence in them. It's about making AI more reliable, not just more powerful.
It's probably not all perfectly clear sailing with these lanterns. Our source does mention that building XAI has its own complexities, maybe some trade-offs. What are some of those hurdles?
That's a really vital point to bring up. Yeah, one major challenge is often this trade-off between how well a model predicts things, its raw power, and how easy it is to explain. The most complex AI models, the ones that perform the absolute best, can often be the hardest ones to explain simply. Sometimes, making an AI more transparent might mean accepting a slight dip in its accuracy. Finding that sweet spot, that balance, is a big area of ongoing research.
Right.
Secondly, the computing power needed to actually generate these detailed explanations can be pretty significant, especially for really complex AI systems. So that adds to the cost of running them.
Makes sense.
And finally, there's the question of who the explanation is actually for. An explanation that makes perfect sense to a data scientist might be, completely confusing to a doctor or a lawyer or a regulator. Tailoring explanations for different people is a big challenge too. It's definitely a field that's still evolving, trying to juggle all these factors.
And that brings us right back around to one of the most powerful takeaways from our source today, that drop of meaning, which says clarity is power. When AI shows its reasoning, it shifts from a guessing game to a tool we can trust. That word power really stands out there. It's not just about satisfying curiosity, is it? It's really about empowering you, the user, the decision maker, the person affected by these systems.
Absolutely. When you achieve that clarity, the whole power dynamic shifts quite profoundly, actually. Before, the AI kind of held all the cards because its decisions were mysterious, forcing you into sort of blind acceptance.
Yeah.
Now, with XAI, you, the user, gain the power to really evaluate critically, to ask questions, to challenge things with actual informed reasoning. And that means better control, more informed decisions on your part, and the ability to, push back or advocate based on a clear understanding of why the AI did what it did.
Right.
It really reduces the risk of just blindly following whatever the AI suggests and encourages a more proactive, responsible way of engaging with the technology. That guessing game where you just had to take the verdict, it gets replaced by an actual informed dialogue. Doesn't matter if you're a developer, an ethicist, or even, say, an artist working with generative AI.
And this isn't just abstract theory, it has huge real world effects.
Mhm.
I mean, imagine being able to clearly explain to a regulator why an AI system flagged a specific financial transaction, or showing a patient why an AI diagnostic tool recommended a certain treatment path. This clarity isn't just about personal trust, it's about enabling regulatory compliance, building ethical ways to govern this tech, and ultimately making sure society as a whole can accept and integrate AI more deeply. Without that why, without that clarity, AI adoption will always hit a kind of ceiling, limited by our natural discomfort with the unknown. So, what does this all mean? We've sort of journeyed from that initial puzzle of the AI black box, that humming mystery giving us answers but no reasons, to the eliminating power of explainable AI. We've looked at how XAI acts like the lantern in that dark, helping us move beyond just knowing what it decided to really understanding why.
Yeah.
And it all kind of boils down to that core idea from our source. Clarity is power. When AI shows its reasoning, it shifts from a guessing game to a tool we can trust. So it means we're actively, hopefully, moving towards a future where tech isn't just powerful, but it's also transparent and trustworthy, empowering you to engage critically with AI both now and as it evolves.
This raises a really important question, I think, for all of us. If trust in AI really grows because we genuinely understand its reasoning, if the machine stops speaking in riddles and just openly shares its logic, what new possibilities might open up for humans and AI working together? Things that were maybe blocked before purely because of that mystery.
Interesting.
Think about all the areas where we've been a bit hesitant to fully deploy AI, or where human experts have kind of resisted integrating it fully, precisely because, as the source said, we're left guessing why it chose the path it did. How might our world really transform when that mystery starts to fade, replaced by clarity, and maybe eventually complete trust? What will you do with that level of informed trust, knowing not just what the AI suggests, but the actual reasons behind it?